Yes, Mr. Poe, I can also think of a lot of things we can do in one sit.
Just again, it's so cold and glazing you reminding. It made me love it and begin again. It made me love it and begin again. You made me love it and begin again.
Hello, sinners. My name is Alice's Sen, and welcome to Alice's Shelf Looks and Books. Today we'll be talking a little about Edgar Allan Poe, and we are going to be using two of his most famous short stories in order to talk a little about his style of writing and the many ways in which he has contributed to storytelling and some of the resources that are used up to this day by different writers. So yeah, let's do that. Also, you're gonna see if you've been here for a while that I have kind of changed the way I do my makeup, especially like the foundation, contouring, and concealing of things. So yeah, let's see how that goes. I think I finally found out how I like to draw my face. So yeah, it's like. So where are we going to start this analysis from? Precisely the plot. So let's start with the Telltale Heart. In the Telltale Heart, we have this narrator that's telling us, hey, listen up. I'm not crazy. I'm completely sane. And I know that because I'm gonna tell you a story that's gonna sound very crazy. But look how quiet, look how normal I am while I tell you that. That's a proof that I'm not insane. So he tells us about this man who has eyes like a vulture's, and that those eyes are like really haunting him, and that eventually he decides he has to kill this man. And it's nothing against the man. He has nothing against the person who has the eyes. He has something against the eyes, which already tells us that he's not really that sane because he can like split the idea of somebody's eyes from the person, like justify killing them because of their eyes, but okay, all good. So for a week, he goes into the man's house and he walks into his bedroom very quietly in order to kill him. But the man is always asleep, so his eyes are always closed. And he can't kill the man if his eyes are closed because he wants to kill the eyes, right? So he keeps on going to the man's house, but the eyes are always closed, so he never actually kills the man. Until it's been a week that he's been going to this man's house, and then he walks into the bedroom really quietly, but the man has his eyes open. So they see each other. And for a long moment, they just stay there, and it's just plain silence, and nobody does anything. And then eventually, he starts hearing the man's heartbeat. And his heartbeat is so loud that it causes our narrator to be like, hey, I have to kill this man fast because his heart's so loud it's gonna wake the neighbors up. So he goes, he kills the man, he dismembers the man, and he hides the dismembered corpse under like the planks on the floor. So the police arrives because a neighbor heard like his death moan, you know? And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna prove to them that I'm innocent, that I'm just here to take care of the house because he's on a trip and I'm an old friend, so I'm just looking after things. I'm gonna invite the police in, I'm gonna make some tea, we're gonna chit chat, and everything's gonna be fine. And then he's talking to the police and he's like, look how good I am at like covering all of this up. And then he starts hearing the man's heartbeat from under the floor. But obviously, the police officer are not hearing anything because the man's heart's not beating, he's dead. And also, they wouldn't hear it anyway. And the narrator starts to think that they're making fun of him because for sure they can hear it. So they are just playing a game with the narrator just to make him confess. And then it just gets louder and louder and louder until eventually the narrator just says, yes, it was me, I killed him, he's buried here, please just make him stop, take me to jail, do whatever do whatever the hell it is, but just make the heartbeat stop, please make the heartbeat stop. And then, yeah, he's sent to jail, so it's like... Meanwhile, on the Black Cat, we have this guy who had a cat, and he was very close friends with the cat, and everything was great. Yeah, it's like, but the narrator had a problem with drinking. And then one day he gets home drunk and he thinks that Pluto, his cat, is avoiding him. So in order to punish Pluto for avoiding him, he gouges out one of his eyes. And like the eye socket heals and scars and whatnot, but now Pluto really won't be around him because like, dude, you just literally, right? Removed my eye. What the fuck is wrong with you? I don't want to be around you. And that drives the man kind of mad. So he hangs the cat. And the interesting thing is that he cries as he does that. And then his house burns down and everything is destroyed except for a wall that shows the image of a hung cat. So he's like, damn. So he gets a new cat, and the thing is, this new cat becomes closer to the wife than it is to him. And he grows really, really jealous. And then the image, there's this image on the cat's fur that really looks like the other cat, the one who died. So he decides to kill the cat and tries to like kill him with an axe, but his wife stops him. But when his wife stops him, he kills his wife. So he buries his wife like inside a chamber in the house, and then like time passes, and then she's MIA, and then eventually the police comes, and the police like, hey, so your wife's MIA, and he's like, yes, I haven't seen her, like I don't know, and they're like, can we look around? And he's like, yes, of course. And then when they are like looking around the house, they hear a meow, and they can't seem to find where the meow is coming from because it seems that it's coming from inside the wall. So they hear that there's this cat alive inside the house's wall, and they like break down the walls, which causes them to find the wife's corpse that was hidden there. So that reveals the murder. Okay, so let's talk about how similar those stories are. First of all, to what concerns short stories, Poe had this philosophy that a short story should be read on one sit. You know, you sit and you can read the entire story. And those stories are pretty short. So it fits his conception. However, there's something very interesting for us to realize. That's something that was consolidated in Poe and then everyone started using, which is the idea of an unreliable narrator. Because although on the Telltale Horror we have this guy being like, hey, I'm normal, wanna see that? Do you want me to prove that? I'm gonna prove that to you. Do you know when you're drunk and what's the first thing you try to do when you're drunk? Prove that you're not. So we already know that there's this guy who's kind of crazy. And then on the Black Cat, that's even more emphasized because we have an alcoholic. And what does that mean? What does it mean to have a narrator, a first-person narrator, that's untrustworthy? It means that we can't really verify the veracity of the story because we can't trust who's telling it to us. And that was a great innovation that came with Edgar Allan Poe. And then let's talk about something that's really interesting and that has been brought up by a bunch of scholars, which is queer coding. What is queer coding? For many centuries, it was basically illegal to be queer and to tell queer stories, as we know from the picture of Dorian Gray. So many times, what would happen was that people would tell these stories in a way that queer people would understand, but non-queer people might not. And that happens on the Telltale Heart because there's this obsession with another man and with his eyes. And then there are scholars who defend that that's a whole take on homosexuality and the fulfillment of homosexual desire. Because I'm not saying that Poe was in favor of the gays. He was apparently not. because the Telltale Heart showcases how the pursuit for the gay male desire causes death, you know, and corruption. But it's interesting to see that there's this story happening underneath the lines. You know, it's not as plain as it may look. And just in order for us to finish talking about the Telltale Heart and moving to the Black Cat, it raises the question of, is logical thinking the opposite to madness? Because we have a guy who is mad, who tells the story from a very logical point of view. So like, what is the line that's drawn between being mad and just, you know, being a little... So now let's talk about the Black Cat. In theoretical literature, we have this guy Todorov who created this conceptualization of fantastic literature. And he would say that fantastic literature is that little point between reality and the wonderful. So if you could prove that what happened was supernatural, then you have a wonderful story, not a fantastic one. If you could prove that it's real, then you obviously don't have a fantastical story. So the fantastic is this in between, this place of doubt. And that's exactly what happens on the Black Cat. Because like, do y'all really think that that happened? Like with the cat on the wall? That's insane, right? But it could have. So that's the place for the fantastics. But it could have. And we also have a question on perverseness, which is to do something that's wrong just because it's wrong. And that's, oh, I have to fix this, bro. And that's precisely what the guy is doing when he like kills the cat, and like he buries the woman. It's like he knows it's wrong. You know, he does know that. But he does it. So that's what's like perverse to Paul in this story, which is quite brilliant. And there is also a very interesting element, which is the guilt he feels as he hangs the cat. So this is a statement on the fact that the human mind can watch its own corruption. He sees himself fading into this place of perverseness, and he can't do anything about it. So it's like, how much control do we have over our own nature? And are we really good? Or maybe we're just inherently bad. Maybe that's what actually happens, and maybe that's horror because it's real. Maybe that's what's scary. So it's brilliant. We have talked a little about Poe before when we did the Raven first ever video on this channel, and I was also doing my makeup. I was so bad at it back then, and now I'm just bad at it. So do watch that. But I'm done with this class, so I'll see you at the end of this video, okay? See you soon, bye-bye. So this was Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart and The Black Cat. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in next week's video. Mother loves you, and remember, life is a sin.